Public Works Committee, Thursday, October 31st, 2019. Roll call, Ms. Kathy.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Abshire?
Here.
Mr. Angelpont?
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Brame?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham? Mr. Guidry was unable to attend this evening. Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Latour?
Here.
Mr. Scott? Mrs.
Here.
Scott? Mr. Senegal?
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy?
Here.
Vice Chairman Mayo?
Here.
And Chairman McMillan was unable to attend this evening. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy.
You're welcome.
Presentation of a certificate to Mr. Stephen Winfield in recognition and commendation of his heroic action by administering CPR to Ms. Linda Lessing on October 1st, 2019. Mr. Kelly.
Good evening. Dean Kelly, Director of Facility Management. If I may, I'd like to ask Mr. Lessing and Mr. Whitfield to come up and join me. On October 1st, Mr. Whitfield and Mr. Lessing were working out of Public Works, and Mr. Lessing received a phone call that his wife was having a medical emergency. So Stephen drove him to the house, and when they got there, she was unresponsive, and Mr. Whitfield began performing CPR and did so until paramedics arrived. A few days later, Mr. Lessing came back to work. He informed me that if it were not for the efforts of Mr. Whitfield, his wife probably would not have survived that event. So today we would like to recognize Mr. Whitfield. Mr. Lessing's here. He'd like to make a few comments for the family.
Good evening. My name is Horace Lessing. I'm the husband of Linda Lessing. On October the 1st, like Mr. Kelly was saying, I got a call from my daughter that my wife, she wasn't answering the phone, nor was she answering the door. I asked Mr. Whitfield to bring me home, and he did. I thought I was getting out of the truck before him, but when I got in the house, he was already in there administering CPR. He went above on her. If it wasn't for him, my wife would have died. My family and I owe Mr. Whitfield a debt of gratitude. And I just like to say, it's nothing I can do to pay you for what you've done, but handing you my right hand and let you know you have a friend and a family member for life. We thank you. This award couldn't be going to a better person. I've been here 3 years. I always knew working for the parish was a good place to work for. But when people go out their way to do what he done, it's more than just friendship, and it's more than just co-workers, it's family. I thank you, sir.
Amen.
All righty. I'll read the certificate for you. Presented by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury on this 31st day of October 2019 to Stephen Whitfield in recognition and commendation for his heroic action by administering CPR to Miss Linda Lessing on October 1st, 2019 at her home until medical emergency personnel could arrive. Stephen, it was nice to welcome you into our family of facility management, and that's you know, a lot of folks when they ask what's it like to work for the police jury, one of the things we hear very often is we're all family, and you know what you did certainly proves that. I'm proud to know you, and thank you for what you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
Bears.
Go ahead and take your picture. when I first saw Steve was working here, I've known Steve since, well, I can't use height. 'Cause I've always been this short, but anyway. When I found out and I saw Steve was working for us, I said, man, what a great hire. The guy will give you the shirt off his back. I'm not surprised in the least bit that he stood up and just took charge of the scene. You know, he did it for, you know, that was his first job. You know, when he retired from doing that for a living, and you know, and I think he's that instinctful, and he's that much of a caring person. And you know, initially when when I found out he was working with, I told him, I said, man, what a great hire. Man, you know, you're a heck of an asset to the parish, you know, with knowing all you know. Well, you know, lo and behold, you know, I'm glad that, you know, he had a chance to show his ability and prove them. You guys, you know, y'all are forever bonded now, you know, and that's really cool. And I hope your wife's doing good, Mr. Lessing. And but congratulations, Steve. It's good to have you. I yield back.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Number 4, appearance by Mr. Jim Rock, Executive Director of Lake Area Industry Alliance. Mr. Bean.
Thank you, Chairman May. I want to just do a little brief introduction. I asked Jim to come. I saw him recently, and many of you may know this already, but he's the new director of the Lake Area Industry Alliance, LAIA. And it would be good to know a little bit about him, and so this is a great opportunity. Just a little bit of quick background. He just recently was named director of the LAIA. Prior to that, as many of you know, he was site executive director for Lotte Chemical. So that whole big $3 billion project he was over, very efficiently done, major economic driver for this area, and he and his team were great to work with on things like permitting and other things we had to work with him on. Prior to that, he was with Axial as vice president of operations and works manager. He's also a long-term employee at PPG, so he's well established in the community, and we've already had opportunities to discuss his new role, and I've got nothing but good things to say about him. I do want to make a point before he comes up. I saw Miss Trimmy's jacket tonight. Y'all need to know he is a graduate of the University of Alabama. So,
Roll Tide.
but I won't hold that against him. So with that, I will ask Jim, come on up if you don't mind, just say a few words.
All right, thank you, Brian. I especially want to thank you for putting me on the agenda right after this previous thing there. It's, my story is going to be pretty boring compared to that, but I have worked in the industry a long time, over 42 years. And in that time, I've seen and witnessed people give CPR, give the Heimlich maneuver, and you know, the industries have a lot of trained emergency response people, and it's a very needed thing, and it's a great thing, and fantastic story there. So. Tough act to follow, but that's okay. But just wanted to introduce myself, as I know most of you actually from being in the community for so long, but I've been in Lake Charles since 1977, so 42 years, not counting about 7 years where I got to train in West Virginia on how to be a plant manager, and that paid off for me, I guess. But with Lake Area Industry now, and Lake Area Industry Alliance has been around for 19 years, and I'm only the second executive director. So Larry Duracell, I'm sure you all know, I was in that position for 19 years, and so I feel very fortunate to be able to try to follow in his footsteps. When I accepted the position, they asked me if I was going to work for 19 years, and I said absolutely not, but they gave me the job anyways, and I'm very, very glad they did. But Lake Area Industry Alliance, I think, is a really strong organization. We've got over 20 members now. The number fluctuates a little bit with acquisitions and mergers and plants shutting down and plants starting up and things like that, but we've got about 22 member companies right now. And our goal is to provide a channel of communication between the industries in the community, including elected officials like yourself, communities out in the neighborhoods, and educators and different groups as to what we do, including what our benefits are, what we think the benefits of having industry are. And we're just starting to kick off a campaign called Industry Impact, where we talk about the taxes that we pay. A few months ago, we had the Calhoun Parish Sheriff's Department Marine Division come present to us, and they were bragging about all the fancy equipment they got and communications devices, and they talked about a story where they went out and rescued a group that was in the Gulf, out in the Gulf of Mexico. And so afterwards, they were asking for questions, and I said, well, you know, Cameron's a lot closer to the Gulf of Mexico than Calhoun Parish. Why were y'all being called on to do that? And they said, well, Cameron's got like 2 retired people in a boat and a rope, and they can tow people in. That's about all they can do. And talked about how they even have gone to South Alabama to rescue some Alabama fans that were stuck out in the Gulf because they had the best equipment. People along the Gulf knew who to call, and they were thanking the industry for all the tax money that's gone to help them fund all that stuff. Not everybody knows that. Not everybody understands that. And so besides the property tax and the sales tax, we employ an awful lot of people, over 5,000 people. And that's just direct hires. From those direct hires, there's another many thousands of contractors and service providers. All those people are paying state income tax. All those people are buying cars, they're putting gas in cars, they're renting apartments, they're buying houses, they're paying property tax themselves, eating at restaurants. And so there's a tremendous domino effect of the economic impact of the industry. So we're trying to get that story out because not everybody is appreciative of that. But also we want to encourage companies to be good stewards of the environment, provide safe jobs. One of the safest jobs you can have is to work in a chemical plant. A lot of people don't understand that or realize that. And also to participate in community activities. So last week was a good example over here at the Civic Center. There were over 3,000 sixth graders from Calhoun Parish going through Chem Expo. That was the 20th year in a row we had Chem Expo, and it's sponsored by Lake Area Industry Alliance. So we organized it, we set it up. We had over 300 volunteers, so the students had us outnumbered about 10 to 1, but we got through the day pretty much unscathed. But you got to rent the Civic Center. You got to pay the bus drivers to bring them. You got to pay the substitute teachers that were staying in the classroom with the kids that didn't go. And that's just one example of Lake Area Industry Alliance and some of the things that we try to do for the community. So glad to be here. Feel very fortunate, very blessed to have this opportunity, and look forward to working with each and every one of you. And I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments or wants to talk about football. I'm here.
I'm thinking I'm already making my statement.
Yes, you saw it when I walked in the room.
Hold up, Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say congratulations, and I know we all look forward to working with you.
Oh.
Like Brian said, you've been always very helpful in the past and easy to work with, and you're a good guy, too, on top of all of that.
Thank
So
you.
We look forward to it.
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Hold up, Mr. Abshire.
We've played tennis together.
Right.
I've known you a while, but I'm very appreciative of everything that the industries provide. I'm very aware because my father was an operator at PPG for 30
Right.
years and put a roof over my head, paid for my education. So it's great for the families of Lake Charles, and we appreciate everything.
Ayers.
Thank you. My father retired from PPG as well. He actually had one of those extended vacations at Natrium.
Yeah.
It was one of the coldest times. They couldn't do it at any colder time of year. But again, I'm looking forward to working with you guys. I know that this is go time right now.
Right.
It's a good time. It's good news that Larry, who's done a great job, is passing the torch to somebody like you who's well versed in industry, and then this area's industry. So that makes me feel a lot better, and looking forward to keeping the lines of communication open.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Rock.
Thank you.
Number 5, consideration of approving the following amendments to professional engineering contracts. A, Neil Schaefer Incorporated for the Ham Reed Road at Lake Street intersection improvement project in Ward 3. B, C.H. Fenstermaker and Associates LLC for the Red Davis McAllister Road and South Park Drive roundabout project in Ward 3. C, Lysone Engineers for the Johnny Bro Road extension project in Ward 7. I have a motion by Mr. Scott for all bullets and a second by Mr. Latour. Any discussion? Mr. Brain.
Thank you, Madam President. On B, the roundabout at McAllister and South Park, that's needed bad. Am I correct? A lot of bad accidents right there. Fatalities, yeah. I'm so glad to see that right there. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Mr.
Landry.
I will tell you, that's a good intersection. There's nothing wrong with it. It's people that are not paying attention to what they're doing. Because, I mean, you got great vision there. But if you're speeding or you're texting or you're under the influence of something, yeah, bad things happen. Unfortunately, not just one time, but a number of times. Hopefully this is going to correct that. And in their mind, they realized, oh, I'm coming up the roundabout and I'm going to slow down. But honestly, some of those folks, they're probably going to run into the roundabout. But hopefully they won't hurt someone else.
Right.
So,
Well, I know it's been bad there, so.
absolutely. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 6, consideration of approving the following professional engineering contracts. A, O'Shawn's and Associates Incorporated for the Alter Road Bridge Replacement Project. B, O'Shawn and Associates Incorporated for the Big Wood Stalks Road Bridge Replacement Project. I have a motion by Mr. Latour and all bullets, and a second by Mr. Guillory. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 7, consideration of approving
to adopt.
expropriation of property for the Ham Reed Road Extension Project in Ward 3. I have a motion by Mr. Brain and a second by Mr. Abshire. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 8, consideration of authorizing the
8.
parish engineer to
Second.
advertise for Newcomer Road Bridge Replacement Project. I have a motion by Mr. Bears and a second by Mr. Brain. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 9, consideration of accepting the following project as substantially complete. A, I-10 North Frontage Road,
Move on
Phase
line, all
I
bullets.
west of Sabine River, diversion canal to Ruth Street. B, Johnny Bro Road, Rest Bridge Replacement. I have a motion by Mr. Entrepont and all bullets, and a second by Mr. Abshire. Any discussion? Mr. Bears.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the North Frontage Road project in Sulphur, Mr. Connor, do we have all of the drainage issues situated on that? I know there's some drainage issues, or someone had been talking about some drainage issues of some property just north of the road. In your opinion, I mean, is everything on point? And are we, I just want to make sure we get this right before we close this thing out, you know?
I can respond to that, Mr. Bears. If you
Okay,
like.
thank you.
In my opinion, it is not related to this project, but we will be meeting with the property owner very soon and to try to, come to some type of plan to help accommodate his issues. So.
Okay, because, I mean, in all reality, that area is fixing to, once we go north to Parish Road, I believe it is, that we're gonna have to use, that land has to be usable, so if there's a swamp and regardless of who's making it, I guess right now, make sure that we're out front of it, so we don't have, problems in the future in that area. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 10, consideration
Move
of
on
accepting
10.
Audubon Trace Phase 1 subdivision in Ward 1. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Senegal. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Any other matters for consideration?
You care.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Abshire to adjourn.
really know.
5 more minutes to go.
I think that's why we deferred for 30 days. Now, I'm not sure. Here you go, Cal.
Almost home, he said.
You took me back to that.
Yeah, I
It's okay. It happens.
I think so.
I'm not like the other guys. I pay attention.
Oh, I got you, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yes, we're good.
Or gals.
Else.
Call to order the Agenda Committee, Thursday, October 31st, 2019. The purpose of today's committee meeting is to formulate an agenda for the regular meeting of the police jury on November 7th, 2019. I need a
Move to
motion and a
pull item
second to
20.
pull
Second.
item 20. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Brain to pull item 20. Take appropriate action on the terms of the following members of various boards and districts. A, Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board, Ms. Sharon Glacia.
Move to reappoint.
Second.
Move to reappoint Ms. Glacia. I have a motion by Mr. Senegal and a second by Mr. Landry. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. B, Waterworks District Number 7,
on
Awards
B.
4 and 6.
To
Mr.
appoint
Adrian Brock Peterson.
Brock.
To appoint?
To reappoint
I
Brock.
have a motion by Ms. Trimmer to reappoint Mr. Peterson, and a second by Mr. Landry. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. C, Workforce Development Board, 1, Ms. Tracy Fontenot.
I'd like to defer for 30 days.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour to defer for 30 days, and a second by Mr. Guillory. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 2, Mr. Tab Fincham.
Tab Fincham, okay, please. I'd like to appoint Miss Janelle Johnson.
We're on number 2.
Oh, sorry. Right here.
So I have a motion to appoint Mr. Raymond
Yeah, Raymond
Daniel
Daniel.
Campbell.
Yeah.
Have a motion by Mr. Latour and a
Second.
second by Mr. Abshire. Any discussion?
Off your phone.
Any
Get
objection?
off your phone.
Motion carries. 3, the chief elected official.
How you like to appoint Miss Janelle Johnson?
I have a motion by Mr. Latour to appoint Mrs. Janelle Johnson. I have a second by Mr. Abshire.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Move to
Need a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Landry, Mr. Trimmer to adjourn.